The views expressed by the host on this program documented to be almost always right. 99.8% of the time. Just a great privilege to be with you every day and have you here. Appreciate it more than you know. Telephone number 800-282-2882. The email address lrushbo@eibnet.com. The first caller should get a gold star. This is exactly what I mean when I say caller's job make the host look good. This guy has lit a fire under me. Because this guy said something that I know a lot of. When I watch a debate, I know a lot of people are probably thinking it. Boy, this guy Trump is he's not very deep. You know, it just nuclear triad, what that is, he's answering these questions off on tangents. This guy, I don't know how smart this guy really is. It's not that I don't think he's smart. I don't know what this guy knows. This guy must not really know very much. I know a lot of people are having that reaction to Trump. And even among those who aren't, the question still is, what explains Trump? Everybody's running around trying to explain it. Now, I just did in the first hour of the program, and I will do it again in mere moments, but I want to add to it here. Because that guy's call illustrated something for me that is really important and ever so true, even on the Republican side of the aisle. The question today and going forward is not what explains Trump. The question is not how do we understand Trump, just who is this guy? Why is Trump succeeding? Why can't Trump be taken out? Why do people who support Trump not leave it? That's not the question. It's a wrong question. It's the question posed every day by who? The establishment and the media. Real question is, what's with them? How do you explain them? If anything needs to be explained, it's the Washington establishment and particularly the Republican establishment. If anything needs to be understood, if there need to be questions asked, and if some of us need to get answers on anything, it's that question. What is with them? The evidence is all around us, and it's what Trump has tapped into. The policies being implemented in Washington are destroying this country. They are destroying this country's economy and its future, destroying this nation's health care system, making a mockery of our immigration law, and in fact making a mockery of the rule of law in a broad-based sense as well. Overregulation, taxes, health care, entitlements, out of control, irresponsible spending. We don't have the money for any that we're doing right now. Immigration, national security. The ruling class establishment is engaging in behavior that demands explanation. The things that they are doing defy common sense. There is no reason for the borders of this country to be as wide open as they are, and everybody welcomed as though we are obligated to take them. The ruling class establishment attacks on mainstream people in this country need to be explained. There is a palpable fear all over this country. People who have lost their jobs are afraid they won't find one. People who have jobs are afraid they're going to lose theirs. People who have savings are worried it isn't going to last, or it's going to be erased or taken away. There is a palpable fear. Militant Islamic terrorists seem to be able to kill at will. And when it happens, the ruling class seeks to point fingers at people who are the actual victims, and they want to find evidence of racism and bigotry. Then they want to discuss the niceties of beating the bad guys and to tell us how we can't do that and do it, we can't do that and do it, we can't do this and do it, and people are confused because it makes no sense. There's no common sense in what's coming out of Washington. The question is not what's wrong with Trump. Not what's wrong with Cruz, not what's wrong with it. Even the question's what's wrong with the people currently leading the country. Why do not they see what the rest of us see? And if they do see what we see, then why do they permit this to continue to happen? Why do they fund it? Why do they support it? Why are they taking us down a path that is endangering this country as founded? Why are they doing it? That's the question. And why will they not answer those questions? So I don't think the issue here, it may be for you in the context of the Republican presidential race, but overall, in terms of problems that we face, questions that we have, the issue is not understanding Trump, which is easy. I just explained Trump to you, and I'll do it over and over again. It's not hard to understand why Trump's doing what he's doing and why it's working. He speaks plainly. He's straightforward. He's not politically correct. He refuses to accept the terms mandated by the establishment and the ruling class, the conditions they put on everything. Trump's not destroying anything. Trump hasn't cost anybody their job. Trump, quite the contrary. Trump's not taking people's health care away from them and making it more distant and unaffordable. Trump is not implementing policies that place American citizens at risk to acts of terror and crime in their cities and towns and communities. That's all on the establishment, the ruling class, whatever you want to call them. So the public's not hanging on every word that Trump utters. The public is not micromanaging and looking for mistakes or errors. The public is not playing gotcha. The country's not trying to find evidence to laugh at Trump and put him down. That's the ruling class doing that. And every time they do it, every time they try to play it that way, all they do is cement and solidify Trump's support and the support of anybody else they target. What you see is that these supposed wise and intellectual and brilliant ruling class types have given us a massive debt, endless illegal immigration. They create problem after problem after problem, and then they claim they're the only ones with the solution. And the solution makes the problem worse. The solution actually codifies and cements the problem and justifies it. Now, it used to be that all of this that I was saying used to apply primarily to the Democrats. The great sobering reality is that you have to include some Republicans in this diatribe now, because there are plenty of Republicans in the ruling class who are joining forces with the powers that be who are demanding all of these policies. We have endless immigration. We have a dismal economy. We have 94 million Americans not working, for crying out loud. We got more people on welfare and federal benefits than ever before in our lives. We got more food stamps. We're destroying people's lives. We're destroying human dignity. We're taking away from them the opportunity to be the best they can be before they even have a chance to understand what's happening to them. We have attacks on the family by redefining marriage and then calling people bigoted who have deeply held religious beliefs that were present at the founding of the country. Those people are the new bigots and racists. We've turned the U.S. military into a social architecture playground for the Democrats and the libs. Every day brings new race baiting. Hands up, don't shoot. Don't make me repeat what blew me up yesterday. Yeah, the Washington Post. You know what? Hands up, don't shoot. That was worth 4 Pinocchios. That's one of the biggest lies all year. Really? Who made that happen? Who made that? The very people handing out the Pinocchios. Now, about Trump's lack of intellect, there's somebody else they accused of being a dunce. And that would be Ronaldus Magnus. Ronaldus Magnus was tarred and feathered as being too simple, simplistic, and amiable dunce. A nice guy, didn't have the brain power to stay engaged on anything longer than 10 minutes, and then it was off for a nap. Reagan's reply was, there aren't any easy answers, but there are simple answers. And you see, when we're talking about the intellectual elite and the ruling class, understand one thing. The more complex, the better, as far as they're concerned. Because the more complex, the harder it is for you to understand something, the greater the divide between them and you. The more complex, the harder it is for you to understand it. The more complex, the more necessary they are to explain it and deal with it, because they have the deep intellect to get it. The more complex, the better. But the fact of the matter is, as Ronaldus Magnus said, yep, no easy answers, but there are simple answers. We must have the courage to do what we know is morally right. Well, I would submit to you that a lot of people see Trump that way. They're not worried about the niceties and the intellect and all that. They understand that the problems are deep. And here's a guy talking about his desire to fix them and solve them, and he has a track record of doing that. Reagan would cut through all the academic debating, present the simple answers. And the intellectual elite do not like simplicity. They're not needed for that. And, oftentimes they don't even get it. Yeah, the simplicity is too beneath them. Folks, we have just had, and we are still in the middle of, 7 years of somebody that the drive-by media and the Democrat Party think is the smartest president we've had in generations. Barack Hussein, oh man, is he smart? Does he use the language? Oh, does this guy know how to speak? This guy's so brilliant. It's dripping off of him. Harvard law review, except we've never seen the transcripts. Never mind. What good has all of that brain power done us? That is why I've always maintained that we have the need to redefine smart here. But here's another reality. For all of you trying to understand Trump, understand that today the ruling class is aiming all of its fire at Ted Cruz. Now, part of the reason the ruling class establishment's backing Rubio, and Rubio is assumed the position that Jeb occupied. The ruling class, nobody's admitting it yet, but they understand that Jeb's not going to pull this off. They need a stand-in, and for them, in their mind, it's Rubio. And they're pushing for Rubio to try to take out Cruz. Rubio's the new stalking horse. I mean, they were hoping that Kasich could do this, too. I just still go back to last night. Kasich opening up by saying, yeah, my daughter said, Dad, you know what I don't like about politics? There's too much yelling. There's too much screaming. There's too much disagreeing. There's too many arguments that go on. This is from the guy who pledged his super PAC to take down Trump. Remember that? So there's a lot of hypocrisy out there that people also note. So the big rhino donors are going to move to Rubio. They're going to put tons of money in his PAC. Going to run a lot of ads suggesting Cruz is anti-Israel, anti-military, pro-amnesty. But there isn't any amount of PAC money that's going to convince people that Ted Cruz is pro-amnesty. But they're going to try. Folks, here's a point. They're never going to be able to make the case that Ted Cruz is pro-amnesty. Of all the people in the world, they'll be trying to make the case that Trump is. And yet they're going to try with all of this money. As many of us suspected, you're going to think this is a big move off the subject, but it isn't. When they closed the L.A. school system yesterday, there were a lot of people, and I was one of them, who thought, wait, these people are overreacting. They got scared. This is going to be a hoax. You wait. It's a bunch of people that have been just totally shackled by PC. We're living in the shadows of the San Bernardino massacre just to the east of L.A., and it turned out to be a hoax. And you know how they finally figured out it was a hoax? And this is very important. The hoax came from Germany. It was an email. It turns out that the hoaxer was using the storyline from this season's series Homeland. This season's episodes of Homeland was his inspiration. But you know how they knew, ultimately, that the email was a hoax? There was no capital A on Allah. Now, wait. wait a minute. Wait just a, what does that mean? It means that he could not have been a true Muslim. He could not have been a true Islamic Muslim terrorist because he didn't have the sense to capitalize Allah. Well, folks, I'm sorry. They have just admitted with this explanation that it is indeed devout Muslims from where militant Islamic terrorism comes from. They've just, whether they know it or not, they just admitted. Obama's out there saying that there can't be any terrorism in Islam because Islam's the religion of peace, and that Islam opposes ISIS. Islam opposes all this terrorism. They oppose it as much as we do. And yet, the experts in Islamic terrorism were able to proclaim this email a hoax because Allah was not capitalized, which meant it wasn't from a true Muslim. But wait, these very same people tell us that no, you can't, no, there's no terrorism in Islam. They have just exposed them. So now, for whatever reason, they're lying to us. But it's another example, the ruling class trying to tell us that what we know isn't so. Telling us that what's right in front of our face that we can see isn't what we see. Militant Islamic terrorism is militant Islamic terrorism. Trying to tell us it isn't because there's no such thing as terrorism in Islam. Except they knew it was a hoax because the emailer forgot to capitalize Allah, which meant that he wasn't a genuine, devout Muslim. Okay, there's even more to this, but I recognize that I have got to take a break here. We'll do that and get back with more after this. Don't